Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Representative Berger-Girvalo.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. This bill was such a great collaborative effort of the whole committee, really with ongoing input from the Department of Motor Vehicles, the commissioner of which has been extraordinarily helpful and has contributed to the conversation in a strongly ongoing manner. The ranking members and chairs of this committee have shown this very new vice chair how you get it done and how you get it done together. And I am grateful to them for that experience, to be very frank. So this has just been a really collaborative effort to make sure that we got important pieces in this bill and that we've really made effective changes that are going to benefit all users of the Department of Motor Vehicles and residents of the state. This will make people feel safer on our roadways, and I'm just going to go through a couple of pieces of this very long bill. As I said, there are some federal conforming changes and some technical changes in here, which we just adopted in the amendment regarding drug and alcohol clearinghouse checks. But we also have in here driver's school license renewals, making sure that right now the fingerprints are not explicitly mandated upon renewal, but that will be mandated, and fingerprints and background checks will be part of this. In the case of car seat violations, if someone is given a violation for not having a car seat, this offers a little bit of leniency in a first-time violation, because the goal is, of course, that we are encouraging conformity with the safe practice. So if a person shows proof that they've gotten the correct car seat, there's some flexibility there in terms of that actual violation. There are relatively minor changes in some other penalties related to licenses, registrations, and license plates. This will increase in some cases from an infraction to a Class D misdemeanor on some fraudulent use of licensure. So if you're using a state-issued driver's license that doesn't belong to you, that is now a Class D misdemeanor. Similarly, it lowers the penalty for others. The idea here is to really create parity between using somebody else's state-issued license versus using a counterfeit license. Again, that's to create the parity between those types of crimes. There is in here an emergency contact study, something that was brought to the committee that's incredibly important in recognizing that our law enforcement officers have a very difficult time determining who and how to contact family members or people who live in the home if there's a serious crash on our highways or roadways. So we're going to ask the DMV to look into the possibility of when folks renew their licenses or get a new license, could they supply emergency contact information and then allow our law enforcement officials to have access to the database that our law enforcement officials are asking for. On dealer registrations, this is something that was brought to us by our minority leader, meant to ensure that our smaller repair shops are able to get appointments to register cars by lowering the amount of automatic registrations allowed to larger businesses. So essentially this would be freeing up appointments for our smaller businesses. Notice of recall, this part of the bill addresses a really important safety concern. Often we can't reach folks when we want to be able to let them know that there has been a safety recall on their cars. There's a great number of unanswered recall notices. So in making sure that they're safe, we're able to have, anytime they go for an emissions check or a repair, these repair shops will be able, even if you're not going to a dealer, these repair shops will be able to inform the customer of a recall. They'll check a system like what already exists with NHTSA, which is an available system, or Carfax, and you'll be able to determine through that repair if you do in fact have an outstanding recall. Moving on to knowledge tests and the languages. There was such an impassioned conversation around this with, again, a lot of support from within this chamber as well as from upstairs. And during the hearing, we heard in particular from the Nepalese communities in the state. They were having trouble taking the knowledge test as they're coming over here. And they want to be able to get jobs. They want to be able to be mobile. And having a license is critical in being able to establish themselves here. And this barrier of language was preventing them from being able to achieve that. On the knowledge test, we worked directly with the commissioner of the DMV and had a lively back and forth where we figured out that the test is not only going to be available in the language spoken by the Nepalese community, we're also going to be offering it in 26 other languages in addition to the 11 languages that are currently offered in the state of Connecticut. It's a huge win for the state and for those who want to come here and establish their lives, and we will certainly add this to the ways in which we welcome them with open arms. Thanks to multiple members here and again upstairs, we have a section in this bill on accessible parking, something I was excited to see as I worked on the transportation details of 5001 throughout the session. It is all too common to hear of violations of folks who are either using lifelong permit incorrectly when they no longer need it, or for people who are parking over the lines, and these are things that are not necessarily enforceable. The enforcement ability is extremely limited for law enforcement. So it was determined that we really need an accessible parking advisory council, and the disability community should be part of this council. They were at the table and advising the DMV on how to move forward with some of these placards, and we also ensure that law enforcement is going to be part of this conversation as well as those who would be expected to enforce. Municipal planner is also being involved in these discussions, and we're looking forward to seeing what recommendations do come out of that council. On the school bus piece, anybody with kids can agree there is a school bus driver shortage. And school bus drivers have come to us, and the school bus companies have done as well, telling us that this is a real problem and we need to find solutions for them right now. So there's really, with very little time to waste, and by little I mean pretty much none, we know that a solution is to try and ensure that the road tests are available to those who want to become school bus drivers, and we also need to ensure that we're working with the commissioner on that so that there is no conflict there. Another piece of this is to have a school bus driver's safety study to really make a determination on why there's this shortage, and what sort of incentives we might be able to provide in order to ensure that there are more drivers available to us and to drive our children. Continuing our conversation about school buses, we've determined that the school buses are currently not allowed to utilize GPS devices on the buses, which is sort of counterintuitive because now what they're doing is they're using printed paper maps. So I don't know anybody in here. Yeah, there's enough people that are my age that remember using those maps, and it absolutely takes your mind off of the road, certainly takes your eyes off of the road, and is a hazard for our children. So having a GPS system that is securely affixed is going to help tremendously and provide for a much safer drive for our children. I am, again, incredibly proud of the work that we've done on this bill. I'm grateful to have had such a collaborative experience. The Commissioner of the Department of Motor Vehicles, once again, was a tremendous help, but so were all of the parties who contributed to the work on this. And I think it would be really, really inappropriate to move forward without acknowledging Heather and Katrina, who helped us with this as well. And I believe that probably summarizes all of those pages. Am I wrong? And I urge passage.